when you tell people about PMU Launch's success, what do they assume built that growth that actually had nothing to do with it?
People wouldn't necessarily expect. It would be like the culture, nothing to do with sales, nothing to do with operations. The actual people you bring in and them enjoying working there and you taking care of them is probably the main factor then. I'm a big component of hiring when it hurts. That was my best hiring kind of moments. It's like I'm flooded in sales calls right now. I can't handle the fulfillment of leads that are coming in. You have to project the hurt of what's going to happen. Capacity for us was between 30 to 35 clients. I was putting 60 per client success. One client success ended up having to go, the hospital. Then she quit. And so I had to go into fulfillment while still taking sales calls. I left millions on the table by not focusing on now I want to have 100 mil exit. That's my next target. I want to take like 4 to 6 max companies all the way up to 12.5 mil profit. Systematize, we remove email risk. And
welcome to the fifth quarter. Today's guest is Renato Fabri, founder of Fabri Enterprise, where he's building a new model for scaling small businesses and rolling up home service brands. Before that, he co-founded PMU Launch, which has helped over 1,500 med spa and salon owners grow. And he pulled off an exit right at the age of 28, close to 8 figures. Renato, welcome to the fifth quarter.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me. Excited to be here. And thank you so much for that great intro.
Absolutely, man. You and I managed to spend a little bit of time together recently in Tampa, and this podcast is really shining a light on successful entrepreneurs who have done things in a unique way, but also about good people who have become successful in business and really shining that light and extracting the value and the nuggets for budding entrepreneurs, existing entrepreneurs who are looking to scale to what you've been able to do and above, and really figuring out the levers that you've pulled on to make the things that have happened in your life happen. So without further ado, Renato, when you tell people about PMU Launch's success, what do they assume built that growth that actually had nothing to do with it?
That's a good question. I'd say the culture of the actual team. So at one point, we had people that were or competitors that were trying to poach us, and the team would still stay because they liked the crew. The comp structure we had was also competitive comp structure. But I would catch some competitors trying to and they would just come to me, the staff would come to me hey, this is this person reaching out. And then sometimes I'd have to promote people or stuff like that if I want to keep them, if I felt like they were solid A players. But I'd say if we were to break it down as to what people wouldn't necessarily expect, it would be the culture and how fun it is to work inside the company and people genuinely wanting to run after this vision, this value that you've created. And they're kind of packing around this big kind of goal that you're running after is probably what I would say is nothing to do with marketing, nothing to do with sales, nothing to do with operations. The actual people you bring in and them enjoying working there and you taking care of them is probably the main factor then.
And was that something that you were very intentional about doing, or do you feel like it came about naturally?
No, I was not naturally thinking about that. I learned by a tremendous amount of mistakes. So at first, I was hiring, not knowing how to hire. I'm when I was 24 when I really kind of pushed this thing. I was starting to push on it. So I had no hiring experience. So I just kind of brought people in that I just felt in my gut that they were good. And I got lucky with a few people that stayed and they were solid. But I didn't have intentions of building culture or intentions of showcasing and casting a vision. I kind of just I didn't even have scorecards at first, which would be job descriptions of what they're supposed to do, expectations they have to have, and what the comp structure would look like if they hit certain metrics and KPIs. I didn't have any of that at first. I started developing that over time and realized that it is actually important to cast a vision and to let people know why you're bringing them in and the importance of running out, casting this bigger thing that they could run after, that their goals of hitting a certain revenue mark or a certain position inside the company can be achievable if they work really hard and they stay on this path that you've allocated for them.
And so do you think the incentive side of things was a big part as to why people stayed?
I'd say yeah, I mean, I'd say people definitely want to stay due to comp. I guess it depends on the person, right? So comp is important. I think A players are looking for untapped potential if they work hard. So there needs to be like a comp structure that like allows growth to happen, where like there could be a wage plus commission and growth from there, either from their own efforts or eventually from the team's efforts as well. So I think that plays a factor. I think the other factor is, do they see you as a leader that they can learn from, is another side of it. Because, or if it's not going to be you, the leader they're going to be working underneath, do they see that this person is like capable of leading them? They can learn from this person as well. I do feel like I had to become a much better leader for me to continue to attract better talent and for me to retain better talent. I've also had that helped me. Like I've had good team members that didn't ultimately stay because I wasn't a good of a leader as well. That I like only retained for like 8 months or something like that.
Outside of the culture, what do you think was a real growth lever that people missed? Or would you say the culture was the main one?
I'd say like the messaging to get the our prospects in were also like quite important. We had a really robust growth engine. I'd say like I later developed a fulfillment engine, which is like retaining clients, building LTV, but almost always I was getting a very solid amount of new clients every single month because of the messaging and then how dialed in the setter team was to reach out to. So it still comes down to the standards of the company because I would expect setters to respond to leads in under 5 minutes. I would expect closers to text back, and like they're responsible for their show rates, and they're also responsible for their dollar per lead, which is like how much money comes in via the people that hit their calendar, regardless if they show or they don't show. So it doesn't even correlate to your close rate. It correlates to like the actual cash you collect per lead that comes in.
And did that insight come from data, or was it just living through the pain firsthand? So how did you obviously didn't start with your messaging being perfect,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And so at what point or at what data point or what pain did you go through before you were like, okay, something's not very clear about the messaging here. I'm not getting the results that I wanted. What was that point, and then what was the switch that you made?
I always look at data. So I track data. Like prior to having Hyros, I would just have it in a spreadsheet. So I would look at like how much was spent, the impressions, the click through rate, then look through all the entire data. So as I was going and just looking at that data just to make sure that dollar per conversion, close rates, cost per lead, everything was kind of hitting metrics. And I got this through just paying mentorships and masterminds where people that were ahead of me had like shared some spreadsheets that I could utilize, and I just like kind of followed that kind of cadence on it. I don't think the messaging was always off with us, so I stepped into a blue ocean. And like my biggest thing is always look at markets that I can go in that either the competitors are not doing something well or there's a big need for it. So like right off the bat, I we stepped in. I realized that there was not a ton of people really marketing to the beauty clientele, and they weren't solving the problem well. So it was mostly teaching people how to create content, or to like close people in the DMs. They weren't teaching sales, and they weren't like teaching them marketing and offers as well. So right off, like literally right off the bat, we launched. It was first 11 days it was like 9K, which isn't like a crazy amount. But then the next 30 days was 31K, and the next 30 days was 84K, like in collected. So like I kind of hit it right off the bat, like the messaging, and then of course it adjusts. Like the VSL can die out. It died out after a year and a half. But like it literally was pumping booked opportunities and closed deals for a year and a half before having to change it. There's variations that I did V2, V3, V4 to the same messaging, added better testimonials, added better kind of storytelling, but it was still kind of the same messaging up until like a year and a half in. And I think I only changed the year and a half in just to run an adjacent VSL to keep testing against it because we couldn't spend more than 500, 600 a day on ads for the first like year and a half, and then I could push it all the way up to about like 1,500 a day on ads.
Yeah, there's a lot of gems that you just spoke about in terms of how you pick the market that you want to be in, and we're going to cover some of those things a bit later. But just to highlight what you said on the market opportunity, you look for underserved markets, or you look for markets that are being served at not a high level. And when you decided to go into the beauty side, what was it that made you that decision? Like, how did you know it was underserved? Was it just competitor research? Like, what are the people offering them, etc.? Or
Yeah. So before, well, one is market research. So just analyzing the market, seeing where the trend is. I still think beauty is still an up and ticking market. It's supposed to grow, I believe, like a continuation of 7% up until 2030. So it's still on the up and coming, but almost 5 years ago now, that there was not a ton. Like it was still like the market hadn't even grown to where it is today, and there were people marketing, but not as efficiently. Like I said, there's a lot of people that are just trying to run ads for people, but ads doesn't solve anything if you're not able to convert the leads that you're sending to the clients. So that's always my kind of take on it, is making sure that it's almost like an end-to-end solution for the client, because if they're not able to convert the leads, even if you're bringing in the best leads, they're still going to blame you.
yeah, absolutely. And I know you spend a lot of time with entrepreneurs and you spend a lot of time with founders, and many of them are trying to get to the point where you've got to, right? They scale up a company to the amount of clients that you've had, or they've been able to build a company that they can exit and then actually do exit and then actually get a large amount of that cash up front. So when you sit with, some of these people, do you find that there is like a common belief that founders have about scaling that you're just like, you guys are way off?
Yeah. So I'd say that I think the first common belief is like, is my business like, can I sell my business? Is like a belief that people have. Like I had to break that belief myself just by doing a little market research on it, just because I was getting offers and I didn't really like, you get these emails and you don't really know if it's like real or not real, stuff like that. Um, but so for the first one is, it's 100% doable to sell a business. Like if you have a database, if you have a consistent flow of new clients, or you're retaining clients for a while, you have an LTV component to your business, and you have contracts, which would mean like lifetime, like yearly contracts, or at least like 6-month contracts, or even 90-day contracts, but at least like to showcase that the clients are going to stay, where you're not just a like one trick kind of pony that just sells one thing and you don't retain people on the back end. As long as you have something like that, and there's a database that you're tracking, and it's growing year over year, it is doable. So that's like the first belief. The second belief is scale. Some people just don't think, like for me, I was like, I don't know if I could spend more than $500 a day on ads, and I like had that belief until I had to shift the messaging, go a little more broad on the messaging, and like test an adjacent funnel that I was running. So I think some people feel like they can't spend more on ads, like they've tried and the like quality drops, and like it might have just been like just not that good of messaging, or that good of angles that they can test, or not enough angles. So on a marketing front, like just pulling that lever is usually a belief people have. I'd say the other side of it is like hiring people to replace the founder is another big factor, because founders usually are not doing one job. They're usually doing like 4 jobs. Like for me, for me to get replaced, I had to hire closers, sales lead, then had to hire client success lead, and then a marketing division. Right. So I was doing like essentially 3 different divisions, like to make this successful. So it's not a one person's going to replace you. It's a team. It's a set of people that will replace you, and it's okay to at first like release the control of what you want things to be, because you have to teach someone the control that you want. Like I think it's very trainable, very doable if you have people that have solid behaviors and an attitude to work with, that they can be trained to your liking, especially if you're a control freak, which usually founders are.
Yeah, what's interesting is I think there's always that difficulty of knowing when to start replacing yourself and in which roles to start replacing yourself. And then also to be able to stomach the little bit of drop that comes with you stepping away, putting someone in, training them, and almost seeing your baby crying a little bit and you can't pick it up and, do everything again. So, would you say, how did you determine it was the right time? Was it because you were just leaving money on the table? Was it because you were overwhelmed? Like for you, what was it? Was it a revenue number?
I'm a big contributor, or I'm a big component of hiring when it hurts, opposed to like that's just how I've always tracked. Like looking back at it, I think that was my best hiring kind of moments. Is like I'm flooded in sales calls right now. I can't handle the fulfillment of leads that are coming in. I need to hire client success, and then I then started tracking like how many clients a client success can handle. And then I started pre-organizing when the hurt's gonna come in. But you have to always hire at the hurt, in my opinion. So you have to project the hurt of what's gonna happen, like based on the projections of new clients that are coming in and based on your close rates and your marketing data. Like you'll know you're gonna close 35 people or 40 people this month. So then if you have two client success, both capacities at 30, and they're both sitting at 15, that means you're going to max out at 30 this month, and you need to start hiring a third client success right now to get ahead of the eight ball of not getting to, get refund requests or disputes or things like that. So that would be like the hurt by just analyzing data that you need three client success at the level of capacity that you're on. And then depending on how many people you upgrade, you might even need to, or people that offboard over time as well. So those are metrics that you have to look at. That I'd say on the hiring front. I don't think you need to get out of sales unless you're like really bad at sales until like almost towards the end. So like it first goes fulfillment, then goes sales, then goes marketing, because marketing is the lever that pulls the most amount of leverage into your business, which is just continuation of driving leads, creating content, running ads. Sales is like the cash to the business. So you need to be able to, if you're still pulling a lot of cash and you have closers on the side. I still had two full-time closers on my way to my third full-time closers, and I was still closing full-time because I knew how much cash I could still keep bringing in. And I almost at the time as well felt like I couldn't give leadership to my sales team unless I was beating them and still training them. And that was one of my like things. I was always like trying to beat me. And like that leveled up the standard of the culture as well on the sales side.
Yeah, there's that proverb that I can't remember now, but it's you show by doing, right? Like that's what leadership is. Set the standard that you expect, and then everyone has to rise to it.
Mhm.
I think it's really easy when you turn around and you tell people, "Oh, you know what? Yeah, I used to have an agency that I had like 1,500 clients," and it sounds super glamorous, particularly because people are like, "Ah, I'm trying to get my third one, or I'm trying to get my 10th one, or my 15th one, right?" And
Yeah.
so they kind of view you as this person that's just, you've been able to crack this code, and you have been able to crack this code. Um, but it doesn't come without extreme difficulty, I imagine, and unless you're extremely unique, a lot of the founders and entrepreneurs I know go through a lot of headache, heartache, a lot of
Mhm.
pain to get to building the things that they've built. When you look back at building this business, is there a particular season that was extremely hard behind that success where you view it and you're like, I grew so much from this, but boy, was that painful. Um, tell me a little bit about that.
So I'd say building my sales team, just building my teams really, but like primarily my sales team and then my client success team. So I built my sales team three times over, and then I built my client success team four times over. So like I essentially hire these people. This is the person. This person's solid. I like this person. Ramp them all the way up, and then they're not hitting metrics after 90 days in terms of on the fulfillment side, and then I have to let them go, or they quit. They don't like the culture, or they don't like the standard that I'm setting up, or I'm not as good of a leader, and then I have to go and hire again another person or another set of group, and then do that again four times over on the client success side, while still doing sales, while still ramping teams. So I'd say like primarily what I remember currently was I had I had three client successes, and this is before I had organized the ability. I had four client success. This is my first team that I was building. This is before I realized what the capacity was. So I was putting capacity for us was between 30 to 35 clients per client success. Okay. I was putting 60 per client success. And so and I didn't know, right? So I was pushing, like, if I didn't get to 60 or I didn't get to like 50, I feel like I wasn't putting enough. I wasn't getting enough production out of the client success. So one client success ended up having to go, to the hospital. And that was one of her. I thought it was an excuse, but it really was. It was I had to go to the hospital. And so then her clients, she had 60. Um, I was like, I mean, you're just handling 60 clients. Let me put it on to the other client success. So put,
So
I'd say
they're 3 times over capacity now.
probably 40 people onto this new client success who's already overworked. Was doing good. She was the best client success on the team. And then she quit. Uh, like she tried for like a month and a half or so, and then it was just like too much, and she just like quit. Then I tried to like bring her back in, and she like demanded like a ridiculous amount of money to come back, and so I had to go into fulfillment, and I had to go and talk to to my entire client base. I sent messages into the group, sent emails, like apologizing the shifts and everything, while still taking sales calls because we have to continue to keep making money. Um, so that was right at like November, December when I like give like the entire team time off to like have Christmas and New Year's and stuff like that. And I'm out there working literally like I was always working at least 12-hour days, but during this windows, I like wake up at 5 and do not go to bed till like 11 for a solid like 4, 5 months until I could like ramp up my second team of client success because it takes you, I'd say, at least 60 days to ramp up a client success person, at least, because they need to learn the systems, they need to learn how to give the proper leadership. And then you don't actually see if they're doing well until they start upgrading people. And that's usually at the 60-day to 90-day mark.
And by upgrading, you mean into cross-selling into additional services?
Correct. To retain, right? So like we would sell a 90-day kind of 1 quarter trial run where we're supposed to grow the company, and then they like us so much, then we would sell them on a 12-month annual. That would be like the pathway to help people come in. So if client success was not upgrading, or at the time, I had them just be appointment setters. So they would just do appointments for me to chat with the client and sell them for the 12 months. So if they were not putting sufficient leads onto my calendar that were hitting metrics, I then would realize they weren't being a good enough client success before I started adding quality control and before I had client success leads that were reviewing calls and kind of pre-organizing what were the activation points that clients need to hit to like ensure they're going to be successful by day 65, day 70 before they spoke to me. Right. So yeah.
So you mentioned overloading, overloading twice your customer success people or your account
Yeah.
managers. How did you manage the team burnout and client demand during that time? Because it sounds like this is probably the point where you were like, everything could potentially break here, and I've just built this thing, and how did I kind of end up here? And I imagine those guys coming into November and December, this is usually time they get time off, and then all of a sudden you're like, hey, guess what, guys, you actually got more work to do. So during that time, how did you manage keeping the team still committed, still working just as hard, still probably getting paid similar amounts, maybe a little bit more if you put some incentives in place? And also for yourself, how did you manage that burnout? And how did you manage that period of time where it looked like, okay, I'm at the breaking point now, it's do or die for
Yeah.
all the work that I've done?
I mean, I had to shift the support system. Like I had to shift from one-on-one to group for a moment. And because I could not handle all that volume while also I wasn't as good at having a recruitment pipeline. So that was my learning lesson out of this, was to always have a recruitment pipeline so that I don't put myself in this position where I have to jump back in and do all of this. And I can't be fully dependent on 3 people. I have to be dependent on the department, and I could have people on my bench that I can bring in because I've already interviewed them. I already think they're good, and I can just like poach them from where they're working today. So those are learning lessons that I learned. But how did I deal with that with my team? So I always had daily meetings with the sales team. I always had daily meetings with the client success team and ops. So client success would be with ops, and ops would come in once a week. And eventually it became more, but ops was just once a week. So we would just talk about like, I know this is a hard period. I appreciate every single one of you guys. And I had one-on-ones with every single person as well. So in the one-on-ones, I would be grateful for them, showcase that they're working super hard, that they're gonna get like a solid bonus like when we get out of this, if they stick through it, things like that. And for me, I was just putting in the I was just putting in the work and just ripping it because you just have to do it. Like those are moments that like it kind of makes or breaks you. And I think that that was a very strong character development moment because I actually like we weren't losing money. It wasn't even like a losing money situation. We were actually making um like great money. I was like at the
Still
time I was
upward
it was
trajectory, right?
still
Still
like
up.
it was still growing. But the issue was we're getting a lot more complaints from clients because they were sold one on one, and then we're shifting into support, or someone was like wanting a certain metric, then a client success would leave, or like hospital situation. So like we had to emergency move it over. So naturally, that's already friction and issues with clients because they like this client success. They build a relationship with this person, and now we're shifting to a new person. And there was issues between the switch, and then there was also issues when this client success also quit. So then like it was a double whammy of issues
Mm.
in terms of support tickets, calling, emails, or just straight disputes that we needed to handle. So that season was me just really being able to problem solve on the spot. Also, and that's what created like guys were shifting like, and I like did a public message to everyone like, hey, I apologize. Anyone that's sold during this period, I can extend you if you're not successful. I had to get creative to not give refunds or this like unnecessary refunds. I was giving refunds to people that were unhappy, but like if they were just like sold something and I shifted it, I'm like, hey, let me just give you an extra 30 days. Hey, let me like give you an extra 45 days. And like let me give you like a one-on-one from me specifically. Like things like that that could add value to what they paid via what was sold to them. But I had to shift, I'd say for at least like a month, maybe 6 weeks from all one on one, which everyone just stacking one on ones, to hey, we're shifting to like kind of like an office hours thing where we would just have multiple office hours, kind of like group in a group coaching situation where like people could jump into the office hour, ask questions on the spot, and they could answer questions with other people as well. That was how I was doing all that support without having enough people. Obviously, that's not very scalable, in my opinion, because people will still not get refunds or disputes in those situations, but they won't necessarily upgrade because there's not a ton of one-on-one attention. They don't see a leader in that one person with them. So like who's the leader was me. And I put other people in there too, but if they weren't a leader for them and actually solve the right problems, it was just people would just not show up to
Mm.
those office hours.
Yeah, so it sounds like over communication with both clients and staff,
Yeah.
probably humility, because now you're like, I'm supposed to be leading you guys to the promised land, but we're just on a little bit of a side mission right now, and things don't look as nice as where we were
Yeah.
supposed to go. And then putting the right incentives in front of both your staff as well as the client so that they're like, okay, yeah, this makes sense. I'm happy to stick with it because something better awaits me.
Yeah.
And I
And
think it's always interesting because, if you can, I think a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with like admitting things aren't going the way they're supposed to go. And the reality is, I've always tried to view the world through a lens of it's everyone's first time living life too, and this kind of
yeah.
prevented me from getting mad at people because I'm like, oh, I don't know, they're just doing their best. Everyone has their own constraints and stuff. But when you over communicate, when you tell your staff or your clients exactly how things are, 90% of the time they just turn around like, yeah, that's like these things happen. So,
Mhm.
but what's your solution for it? My deliverables have changed slightly. That's fine, but like, why does it make sense for me? And as long as you can communicate that, and it sounds like you went above and beyond in order to do that. For the most part, it works out fine. I see a lot of people try and hide stuff from their staff, and I see a lot of people try and hide stuff from their clients. I'm just like, just tell them the truth, man. Everyone if they like you, they're going to stick with you. And if you've done a good job so far, they're not going to go anywhere else. You know,
Yeah.
everyone's okay to have little periods which are a little bit more difficult than they thought.
I do think transparency is massive. So I think it's like saying the truth and things like that is good and not hiding, but transparency is actually more important as of a word where like you express like what actually is going on. So like I would express to like during this period, it wasn't like a marketing issue, it was clearly a fulfillment issue. But later in a different season, when we had a lot of salespeople on the closing side and on the seller side, and we weren't generating enough leads, we had to now create more content and things like that. Also being fully transparent, like, hey, like I know you're getting not enough leads right now, and it was mostly because I had overhired on the front side, and me not realizing that per like lead per setter, lead per closer as well. But like also giving a ton of transparency on like, hey, we're working on this, like watch out, like you're gonna see, like just trust me on this, and like if people actually get behind your words and what you're saying, you actually deliver. That's the most important part. You actually deliver like at a certain point in the future. It can literally be 90 days down the road when you deliver, but as long as they see upward trajectory of that delivery, super important.
Yeah, and the more you come through on your word, the more people are just happy to take whatever you say in the future as golden. You know.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
so you went from 12 hours to 16 hours. You go through this point where you think things might break. You're managing burnout. You're managing client expectations. What did you learn about energy and focus during that time? Like you went from 12 to 16. You're already working hard. 12 hours a day is a long time. You go to 16. What did you learn about energy and focus under that sort of extreme situation?
I think that like when you have a lot of work to do, and you have the right, let's say, standard for yourself, you're going to stay working. Like that's how I look at it. I think that it's like focus is extremely important. And but I think focus is I have an issue with focus if I don't have enough things to do. Like if I like have a ton of white space on my calendar, then that's when I'll like prior to me learning to, remove my phone from being near me and only working from a computer and turning notifications off when I'm in deep work, like all these things that I've learned. Prior to that, it was I just turn on my computer and I get to work. And the focus side of it is based on just knowing that you need this work that needs to be done after you've like when I feel like I was the most productive, it was when I like just intuitive knew what I needed to do. When I feel like I need to pre-handle my focusness where I'm like, I'm gonna journal, and I'm a huge journaler, huge person that meditates, and person that just like visualizes vision. Like that was something that I did tremendously when I was younger. But then now that I've like understood that, I like if I need to go through a season of just work, I will remove the journaling and the meditating to just work. If I need to go through that season, but then I will reflect back on it when I've like finalize that season so I can then go back to more meditating, more etc. Like I also like stopped going to the gym a little bit during that window too, which was not important. Like these are all things that like I had to sacrifice things that I enjoyed and I liked to make sure that this was working. And that would even be like food, like not like eating less, not because I didn't want to eat less. It was just because I was just so on like what I needed to do that I would just forget to eat as well. And then I would like, oh, I gotta eat, and it would be like 7 or 8 p.m. or like a 3 p.m. or something like that. And I do intermediate fasting. So it's always like around 12, 1 is when I eat, and then like another like 6, 7. Sometimes I would just go all the way through till like my second meal, which would be 7 or 8. So I think that focus is the most important thing for you to grow a business. I think if you are someone like me who can be distracted, you have to like pre-handle that, which means you take your phone, you literally put it like in a different room. You turn off like if you like notifications and you just focus on like what deep work you need to do. What helped me prior to me just understanding focus was the night before writing what I needed to do, the like 3 biggest things that needs to be done. So those things I came into the next day knowing what I needed to do. But during this window, I'd already been like 2 years in this business. So I already knew what I needed to do. It was like, I need to get better at the fulfillment side. And I need to just come in and just handle any problem that we have today, plus focus on hiring better people and then building out training material so that new people that come in, I can ramp them up faster. So I didn't have that as well.
So you basically just narrowed it to those three things. You're like, okay, these are the three levers I have to pull on in order to get out of the situation. And then the rest was just noise. That's a question we'll come across later. But now, obviously, we've been through the period of pain and when things were potentially, stressful and might have broken on the fulfillment side. But what was one strategic decision for PMU that completely changed your trajectory? Like, what was that? Do you ever look back and you're like, as opposed to like a collection of lots of things that I ran in parallel and tandem and did well, do you ever look back and think, oh, I made this one move, and as a result of this one move, I managed to get the exit. I managed to get to 1,500 clients.
Yeah. So here's the crazy part when I look back at it, like this was the most like stressful part, but it was also the most fun part. I was having a ton of fun. Like I think that sometimes you go through like you don't know while you're going through it. Like there's this saying that I'm gonna butcher it, but it's like I wish I knew I was going through the good times when I was going through the good times or something like that.
From the US office,
So
right? I think Andy says it in the
yes.
office.
Yes, there you go. Yeah, 100%. So, like, that was the greatest times. Like, I had so much fun. I think, like, the culture was amazing. The team loved showing up to work. Like, people were, like, excited. I had this, team workouts channel, so I kind of to force myself to work out, I created a workouts channel to make my entire team work out. So we were always just, like, pushing each other at like 4 a.m., 5 a.m., waking up, or like people like at 9 showing that they're at the gym, they're doing like benching or they're running or etc. So those were the best times in my opinion. I like loved it so much. And but to answer your question in terms of what was the biggest lever that allowed us to have the exit was shifting my perspective from front end sales to retaining clients. And when I then later did without me realizing, because I was like, I read in Ready Fire Aim that I need to sell a second product. So that's like that was my bottleneck. So I had to now do that. So then I built a second product, but I basically built another front end product on the back end. So I was like a 90-day thing, and then I sold another 90-day thing. So then after those second 90 days, which was a higher price, I was increasing my LTV, and I was selling it like hotcakes because we were getting so much results on the front end that when I tried to sell them again for a third time, I was getting less conversion on it, despite them still having like they would just feel like they didn't want to jump on a call with me because I was going to sell them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so my pivot was instead of selling a 90-day thing, let's now sell a 6-month thing and then a 12-month thing. And then so then I basically just amortized what the price was going to be for a 12-month solution. And what was the 90-day thing, I just shifted it to be a 12-month thing. And then if someone couldn't afford the 12 months or didn't want to commit to 12 months, I would then downsell them to 6-month commitment, and it'd still be roughly the same price. And then I would downsell them to 90-day commitment, and that would be the minimums, unless later down the road, I then would still sell. I found solutions for everyone. So if someone would come in, like if they didn't have like a marketing issue, they had like a setter issue responding to leads, I then would sell them like a setter, for example, even if they didn't want more marketing from us or more sales training or whatever. So then I still found a way to sell something, even if it was just like month to month. But I'd say majority of them were selling 12-month packages, and we would just amortize from that 90-day kind of product into a 12-month product. And it was signed contracts, which was very, very compelling when I was exiting. Like it was people that were going to continue to pay.
So the focus on retention, the focus on increasing the length of the contract, how long people were actually retaining your services for, you feel like that strategic shift really helped make your business more attractive to purchase
1,000%.
to the person buying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's a good segue into, what should founders understand about building to sell? So you've just mentioned something really critical here, which made your business much more attractive, and how you focused on that. Outside of the retention, outside of contracts, outside of getting, providing a service where people stick for as long as possible. What do you have to say about structure and valuation that founders need to understand from the moment that they conceptualize a business to when they get their first customer all the way to when they sell? And that seems like a big question, but I wonder if you can narrow it down to a few key things for you that when people were looking at your business, they were like, oh, that's super attractive, that's super attractive, that's super attractive. And maybe some of them you weren't thinking about at the beginning and they just kind of naturally went that way. But yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
I got you. So the first one is growth engine. So is like how many new clients are coming in on a consistent basis per month. So then, and like, is it consistent? So I'd say like you have to solve that first before anything. So that was what I first solved without me realizing is your growth engine. Then will be your fulfillment engine, which is like retaining or just like making sure you're creating a great service for the client and then helping you get referrals and like uptick. So you're not just your profit just goes up if you can resell them or you can sell referrals or you can gain referrals from those clients if you're not in like a retention type business model are those two, and then your org chart. So you want to shift into key man risk in certain like things. So with companies, you want to make sure that you're not the bottleneck. So as a founder, you're always the bottleneck unless you've hired solid people. And then those people need to also not be the bottleneck as well. So it's like it's double interchangeable. So like on the closing side, you need to have like on the sales side, for example, you need to have a recruitment pipeline that gets you an ability to have enough reps to come in when you need reps so that if a current rep is underperforming, you could add a new rep in there. Or if a rep is like crushing it and they happen to be poached or something like that, you can add another rep in and they might not do the same levels, but they might do 80% of it, and that's still okay, opposed to you going through a huge ramp up period or like you go through a whole quarter of decline because one person that was a solid sales rep left. So solid recruitment pipeline. So we need to understand the org chart of who are the bottleneck in the company that would be a key man risk inside the company, and how can we plug that bottleneck for having a recruitment pipeline or people on the bench that you feel like would be beneficial on the sales front, on the fulfillment front, then obviously on operations later down the road as well. But it's mostly fulfillment and growth engine for the recruitment pipeline.
And that just ties in directly to the valuation. When people come and see that kind of infrastructure is built, there's A players everywhere that can step into each other's shoes should they need to. And then even one layer behind that, there's a recruitment for replacing any of these people if needed. That directly impacts the valuation, right?
Yeah, 100%. It makes it so like, because what you're trying to do when you're trying to sell a business is you're trying to de-risk the business, right? There's a ton of businesses that fail. So like now you have a higher probability of making a business succeed if it's already been working because you have infrastructure, you have people moving. Like I didn't have a problem with like revenue because I knew I had how much revenue each setter would bring me and how much revenue each closer would bring me. So I kind of had a picture and I could always push on that lever and push on those pacing metrics when we were reviewing on sales team meetings, how many close deals they're at, what their upfront cash is, and like what are they pacing for the month, each rep and each setter with sets and closed deals as well. Look, I always knew that because I had people that their comp structure for them to live their life the way they want with their goals is dependent on them hitting targets. And if they want to hit those targets, that means they hit my targets. And if they hit my targets, then I'm not as concerned with finance. Well, so I've never had an issue when it came to like having people in place if they were performing. And I think that when you're trying to operate a business, you need to de-risk things like that. Where like if you're gonna bring someone in, are they gonna perform? How long is it gonna take for them to perform? Like how much revenue does one employee bring you? Like what is like your dollar per employee basically or metric? So those allows you to see this person is performing at a high capacity and you're de-risking. So like when a buyer is looking at this, they're like, okay, sales is doing a good job. You can always bring new people in. Fulfillment's doing a good job. They're retaining at a they're upgrading 20% or 30% of their clients, and then people are staying for an average of 11 months, or they're staying for an average of 3 years or something. Now they can see that if they just continue to pump new clients in and they keep retaining, the team stays place, then there's less risk to actually buy this company. Where there's risk in buying a company is when there's red flags that come up. So that means like sales is kind of like inconsistent. They had up like an up year and then a down year and then an up year. And like an investor is going to ask you like what happened this year, like why did it decline by 20%, and like you have to have a like that almost makes it like a red flag company. Like why would it decline
It's
20% in that
volatile.
year?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
do you see what I'm so like our job as operators is to make the business de-risked, where like if someone comes in, takes you out, puts them in, or puts like an operator in or a COO in, they can run it through the SOPs and the process that you've built, that and you've also organized what your actions are that you do on a day-to-day basis to give leadership to each division via data, which is what I was doing at the end of the day. I was looking at data and seeing like who needed the most attention, sales, marketing, or client success, then going to the leader there and seeing what they're doing. Like, do they know what they're supposed to be doing based on the data that I saw that they then later saw as well.
Yeah. Yeah. That's clear. How did your exit come to be? Because you started off a bit earlier, and you're like, I kind of got like a bunch of emails, and you kind of think it's fake, and you don't really think that anyone really wants to buy your business. So you exited, you exited at 28 years old. I think you're 29, right?
Yeah, I just turned 29. Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Thanks.
So how did that actually happen? It's you just got like you just finally trusted an email, and you're like, all right, I'll put on this thread and
I,
see where it
I
goes.
yeah, it's a great question. So I actually had gotten a couple emails, and like I even like jumped on a call or two, but then I didn't really like kind of like the company on it, so I didn't actually get like cold emailed to sell my business. It was like it just got like me thinking about it, and then I went to Google and I was like evaluation for my company. So then I got evaluation from two brokers. They both gave me the evaluation of what it would be. I submitted them all my information, all that, and then I got one, and I was like, oh, that's a good evaluation. I like this. And then I was like, let me get another second test on it just to confirm like if this is like a true evaluation or what. So went to another broker as well, and then they gave me another evaluation on it as well. So then from there is
Was
when
it
I was like,
similar? Was it similar numbers, or was there a bigger swing?
they gave me like literally like off by like a couple 100,000, which was like really like I was like, okay, so two completely different companies
The
are
range is right.
evaluating that
Yeah.
right here. I let's run with it. Let's see what we can do with it now.
Then
Oh, the actual full exit process.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
let's
yeah. Sure.
yeah.
So then, so I signed with the broker team. It was a broker team out of California, and they created what's called a CMI for my business, which is basically like marketing material, showcases all the best things of the company, what our revenue is, what our profit is, what the asking price is, plus um, data like the clients we've sold, what our average like cost per acquisition is, like what our LTV is, all things that we already knew, which mind you, by the time I got there, we already had all the financials organized. We already had a lot of marketing data that most people don't have and sales data that people didn't have. So instantly, we got like a tremendous amount of attention on the company instantly because it was a growing company. It was a short company. Like it was growing company and it was short. It was like a small young company, which that could be a red flag. Usually, you want to have like a little longer term, like more consistent, but we were growing so fast that they kind of overlooked that. But ultimately, they sent it out like the CMI, they sent it to their list, which is family office, PEs, and then like potential operators as well, that would have capital to do so. It was 21 interested people. So I ended up talking to, yep. So like really instantly. So
What was that turnaround time from when they sent it out
when
to?
they sent it out, they told me they got like hundreds of messages, and then they were filtering those messages up from there. And then 21 were solid people that had funds to do so. and then we're just asking more questions. So then they were jumping on like three ways with the broker team, myself, and then the purchaser team. And they would then like sometimes it'd be a group, sometimes it'd be like a solo person, and they would just ask questions about like the operations, the numbers, what happened here. They take like an hour or so, and then at that point they could also jump on another call if they had more questions, or they would then submit what's called an LOI. So I spoke to probably out of those 21, probably like 15, I'd say 15 people or so. Because we're also just like, and it was just back to back. It was just like boom, 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 boom. So I was chatting with a lot of people, and I was doing basically my ultimate sale, selling the company. I was just chatting with like why it's a good industry, why do I think it's going to keep growing, what would I do if I were to continue to run it, like things like that, like what are ways to de-risk it. So then this took six to 7 months, like the whole process. So then we went in contract with an LOI with a person, and then later down the road, like it fell through. And then we went back to our group that we had like kind of interviewed and stuff like that and communicated with, and then we got another LOI under contract. So, and that took like once we were back on the market, there were a ton of people that are like, because we get to choose in addition to the purchaser gets to choose who they want, obviously, but like we're like this team seems like a great team to continue the legacy. Like I don't want to sell and have the company go down. I want the company to continue to grow. I want to like this was my baby. I wanted my baby to be taken care of. So I was also asking them questions about like what are their goals? What are they trying to do? Like, what experience do they have, and et cetera, as well? Because it's an internet business. It's not as easy as like other businesses, I would say, because there's a lot of tech, and there's like we had a huge tech stack that like some people don't even understand what tech is. So those are important factors. But once we got the second LOI locked in, we went back. No, prior to getting the second LOI locked in, we went back and we spoke. We like looked at our list of people that we like, groups that we liked, and we're like, this group is going to be, I think, the best group. If we can get them, they're going to like really build onto this company. So then we reached out to them first. They were still interested, and then they put the LOI so they can go into due diligence, which is then now we send even more information. We sent them all of our contracts, our employee contract. And by the way, anyone in the CMI already has an NDA that they sign, so they can't like express anything. So by the time it's here, I sign an LOI, they sign the LOI. It's basically we're giving exclusivity to this company to do a due diligence for 30 days, 60, I don't remember how long it was, but it was like a due diligence period where we couldn't talk to any other buyers. And they were now doing due diligence, just asking us questions, and we're just sending them either data we had or had to make data through our team to answer questions for them.
And then that period ended, and they were like,
That
"Great."
period ended, then we went into purchase agreement stage, which is purchase agreement is now they went through their diligence, they still want to buy, we still want to sell. This was probably another really stressful period of my life because I had to continue to make growth in this company because I'm now trying to sell, so like they're constantly getting numbers on what's
Like
going
live
on.
data. Okay.
Yeah, and
Yeah, it's like
I
I can't drop the ball now. Yeah.
yeah, like there was a month where I like sales was a little bit down, and I was like, hit up our entire list. We're gonna sell back end deals for the whole 12 months, like just to like
Yeah,
push our
yeah.
numbers to above where it was. So yeah, you have to really continue to maintain growth while still creating these data sets that they need to like make a sound decision as
Yeah.
well. Cause like you don't know what they're looking for sometimes as well. So like I had to build out like an aging report that for all my clients. Not that like, and we don't even do aging reports. So like that was a stressful thing in my life while still trying still trying to like operate this business.
Yeah.
So and I reached out to my account. My account's like, yeah, you don't do aging reports. Like you don't like that's not what you do. Like you're not like an accrued business. You're like a cash business. And I had to still figure it out and send them like so
Yeah.
once the purchase agreement came in play, which is basically their attorney is like they have an attorney and an accounting team that like is just trying to get all the debt, like the agreement that's going to like solidify the purchase. So now it's basically my attorney team basically fighting with their attorney team on what we can or can't do and like what risks we're going to be like taking on from each other. And then the big thing that I think helped make the sale was like our ability to train their new CEO and like be kind of like a little bit of a board of advisors for them for the first 90 days and then the next 3 months and then the next 6 months. So like I'm still there
Like
as
the
like
transition
support
period.
if
Yeah.
they exactly like you like our trans period was like huge, like really big, like bigger than normal, I would say, because I really wanted to make sure they knew how to keep operating the business. So like for the first 90 days, I almost like felt like I was still almost working inside of the company. And I also had to like I basically introduced the new CEO as our CEO so that like it didn't like create ruckus inside of the team as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, man, it's important, right? Like these are the clients that you've landed. This is the team that you've put in. You don't want to just take cash and then it doesn't really matter what happens to this company. You know, you have, a moral obligation to the people buying it, to the team that's there, to the clients that you're serving. So it's almost like you have to build new systems and processes just to one, get the deal over the line, and then two, make sure that these guys were equipped for success. Is there something that you would have done differently now, like looking back at it to get it launched, like sale ready?
I would have started.
Uh,
I've left
apart from
millions
the
on the
the
table.
AG whatever reports that you had to do.
No, I think that's just part of it. You never know what you got to do.
Yeah,
Um, I'd say that I left millions on the table by not focusing on LTV and retention earlier on. So I think I sold probably like 300 like before selling anything back end.
mm,
And so like if I were to just do that earlier on, I would have made more millions during the operation of the company, and then I would have likely sold for more as well. Because I would have retained like I had people that reached back to me when I started selling the 12-month that they were like, "Oh, I didn't know you were selling this." Like I would have they were clients of mine like 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago. And like they can become clients, but there's a set of people that like if you don't push them through a process, they will just never come back. They won't like initiate a re initiation conversation with you. So I know there's millions left on the table for that.
and I'm sure information that you're going to be taking into Fabri Enterprises, right?
Yes.
Instilling this into businesses. What was the first thing you did after the sale closed? Money
I
hits, money
I
hits the account.
so well first I like recorded a video of me seeing cash hit my bank account because it was just like so cool. It was like the coolest feeling. I then called my mom and my dad, showed them as well. Well, I didn't show them, but I like explained like I'd sold. They knew I was in the process of selling, but they didn't like your parents never really know like
Yeah.
what you're doing, kind of like
Especially in the online world. They're like, I don't know if what you do is legit or legal, but
yeah. So
less is more. Yeah.
I did that, and then I think I like just relaxed. I think I like weight a little bit off my shoulders, but like the thing was I was still in this transitionary period. So like money had hit my account, but I was still like training and like helping, and I was actually still in team meetings
You're
during
active
this.
still. Okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
still
Yeah.
very much active. Like the first, like I said, the very first 90 days, it almost felt like I was still working inside of the company. And so I don't think I actually felt that like, what do I do with the money? I like just grabbed it and I put a majority of it into the stock market. Allocated 20% into real estate, which I have a real estate group that I invest into, and then I put some money that like the money that I would have to pay in taxes. I just put that into a money market account, and I just kept it there. So like I like was very safe with like the way I like very operational with my
Yeah, yeah.
with my stuff. I didn't feel like I like sold until probably like 80 days into the transition. When like I actually had no more meetings to do, no more transition, no more any of this. It was more just like emails or Slack messages that were sending out to me. And then I bought a Ferrari.
I was waiting for the white Ferrari to come up, I was hoping it was the first purchase. No, I'm joking. So that 80 days later, So I just came back from Hawaii, and
Mhm.
I was at a retreat with people that have exited their companies for, a range but substantial amounts.
Mhm.
And a common theme there was these people were like, I sold my baby, and uh, I'm lost. Like I don't know what to do, and I thought the money was going to make me like
I'll talk about that.
never worry about
I went
anything
through
again.
that too. Yeah.
So was there like a void or an identity shift that surprised you
Yes,
after this?
1000%, 1000%. So, like I said, after the 80 days, when like I now, can enjoy my money and I don't have responsibility, I had created a holding company. I built, like, I wanted to, like, I knew like my next thing was going to be like acquiring companies, but I didn't like necessarily have like a vacation period of like enjoying the my fruits of my labor. So I I definitely went through a celebratory period where I was definitely going out more than I normally do, and traveling more as well. But I do feel like I felt like what am I doing? Like, because like I'm not someone that parties a lot to begin with, or someone that celebrates a lot. I celebrate when celebration happens, but like when I'm out, like I have thoughts in my head where I'm like, why am I out? Like that's like what happens in my head. So when I was doing that for a long period of time, I definitely felt like I was like, this is not like the person that I want to be or turn into, like, which is just parties and doesn't care about things. So I had to pull back a bit on that, spend a lot more time journaling. I wrote a question like, what does Renato want? And I like wrote that down in like, what do I want? I've accomplished what I've like my whole goal was to retire my parents and have millions before 30. Like that was my goal. And I hit that. And then now I'm like, all right, now what? So now it created like
Yeah.
so so I created like new goals to kind of run after and like created bigger vision. And now I'm focusing on being a man of value with honor, with integrity, and those are things you can continue working on every single day by like what you judge for yourself, what is honor to you, what is values to you, and then bigger goals, right? So now I was telling you I want to have a 100 mil exit. That's like my next exit that I want to have. I want to have a 9 figure exit. So that's my next target. So that like created a lot more fire, a lot more hunger in like getting up, because I definitely was rolling out of bed, watching movies. Like I was just like a bum for a little bit of time. And I think that it's not that that's bad. I think I needed to do that to like reinitiate my fire, because I like felt and experienced the retirement part where like you have no responsibility. You can wake up at any time. You can do whatever you want. You can just go on a ride and or fly somewhere. I was like in Europe for like 4 weeks, took my parents on a vacation that they never been. Like I did like a great amount of like quality family time and friend time and retirement time. And those are great memories that I was able to create. But I found that I find the most amount of fulfillment working on tasks that can get better. And now I've shifted my view on like I don't have to do 12-hour days. Like I don't need this money like to survive. I have great amount of dividends and real estate um, kind of dividends that are paid out that makes me feel comfortable. But now I need to create artificial discomfort through who I can become as a man and what potential that I have. And that makes me feel way more fulfilled. But then I can still, finish the day early and go get dinner with friends on like a Tuesday, on like when we went out, right? So like to get dinner. So those are all things that I've now shifted where I'm building with purpose, and it's not just like it's definitely brute force, but it's not as much brute force because I know what to do, I'd say.
And that's a good segue into your existing venture now, that this new
Yep.
journey that you've set upon
Hmm.
with Fabri Enterprise.
Yep.
So now you're consulting home service businesses in return for equity with the goal to roll up and exit, correct?
Correct. Yep.
What's the playbook that you have for finding those partners, that other operators that are trying to do what you do, who haven't sold and who haven't gone through this process, or who do want to be in the home services business. Tell me a little bit about deal sourcing, lead flow, how you're finding people, how you're making sure they're the right ones, and what do you think other operators can learn from your experiences within this niche?
So first on deal sourcing, my network. So I acquired two, right? I have one instantly without vetting them. So this is not what you should do. So here's a learn from my experience. Like so like instantly acquired a construction deal that that they do. And honestly, like this one was a lucky one, which made me want to go to the second one, which I royally messed up. But this one was like a great operator, no vetting, just great operator. And I just like the business model. I wanted like I'm a very like feet first, dive in and figure it out kind of person. So like or organize that, like made a cash investment into the company and for equity and started like improving their systems, which basically was like they were very referral based kind of company and they were doing big deals. So it would be multifamilies that were 100 units plus construction, or hotels, like small hotels like inns and Hamptons, things like that they would do. And their focus is trim, frame, baseboards, things like that inside. So like they basically are subcontracted out from the GC that is building out the entire thing. And that's like $500,000 contracts to like $1.2 million contracts type of deal that you're selling. And that's very relationship based. So what I came in and did was start building out an SDR team that can send out emails and cold call other GCs and developers to put us on the bid list to try to bid for new projects and things like that. So we started seeing uptick in growth there. We're now running Facebook ads as well to start like, and then I pushed them into residential for bathroom remodel and kitchen remodel as well to uptick in revenue from there. And that's just basically building out a second division inside the business from there. And that worked and it was growing and that was awesome. So then I was like, oh, we can do this. Like this is easy like this. So then I saw a pool company that was doing fiberglass pools. And I had a buddy of mine that's doing in pools, so I could like maybe even just sell to him if I build it up to a certain kind of capacity. And yeah, this operator just did not want to listen to me, did not like my ideas, and I invested into that company as well. So so the learning lesson I got was like you need to vet the operator. The operator needs to see you as a leader and believe that your ideas are good ideas. And if you're gonna disagree, but come to a solution. Don't just like, and the operator that was on the pool company was very like hard-headed. This is my way. This is how I've done it before. I don't want a new process. And like he was just hiring people that were not fit for the culture. And like I couldn't even train them because they were just so following kind of his view on things. And so ultimately, like that deal just died out. I lost money in that deal, 100%. And but this one grew. So like it balanced out, and this is still growing. And this was only like I made this investment. I actually made this investment like 14 days after I sold cash at the bank. So like I had like done that, and like I built out my holding company where I had a little bit of team. So I just had them on that while I kind of went on my hiatus of partying and stuff. So,
That's what it does. Yeah.
but so that became like the framework that I learned is I need to vet people. So if they're not willing to pay me for consulting for a 90-day window, where I will grow their business. There's like literal zero shout in my mind that I will not grow their business if they don't listen to me, because there's just systems they don't have. They either don't have a proper system to be shown on Google or on Facebook and Instagram, or their team doesn't have a good enough culture, or they're the bottleneck and they're doing everything. And I could hire people from like overseas to come do some of their work. There's something I can do that can create the bottleneck that
Decrease
makes
costs, increase revenue. Yeah.
Yes. So if they're not willing to do that, then I don't think it's an operator that I can partner with. So now they will pay me consulting for me to vet them and for them to vet me. See if they like my leadership. See if they like working with me because I do have high standards. I do want to have like year over year growth, and that's very important. And like if they've been stagnant for a while, like we're going to shift the culture and shift the standards of the company pretty rapidly the moment I come in. So, but that's the vetting process I do now. I vet them first, set up my marketing systems and my sales systems into their company, and then at the 90-day mark, we reevaluate, and I'm usually pushing for some equity deal at that capacity.
And the goal, $100 million exit.
100 mil exit. Yep. I want to take probably like five, like 4 to 6 max companies, all the way up to 12.5 mil profit in a year.
Got it.
Systematize, organize the entire operations, make sure that we remove key man risk from that company, those companies, and have them stay on because they are like somewhat good operators by the time they got here. We're gonna have solid operators, and the best one can like kind of be like a COO of like multiple location type deal. Is how I see it, and take it all the way up to 12.5 mil in a year. Yeah.
I've got no doubt that you're going to do it, man. We're excited to watch your journey and have you back on. With the next question is, okay, what have you learned about building $100 million business as opposed to a figure one? Final two questions. After the exit, after the grind, now you're moving into a bigger opportunity vehicle, right?
I agree. Yeah.
What is it that you believe about entrepreneurship now that you would go back in time and tell a 21-year-old Renato, hey, don't think about it this way. Think about it this way.
Great question. So I think when you're a 21-year-old, you're looking for cash. So you have to build for cash now, opposed to evaluation for down the road, right? Like during this journey that I'm going to be going on, I'm not going to be really taking a ton of cash um, payments because I want to make sure that the EBITDA looks good. I want to make sure I'm paying a team properly. I'm setting up systems. I don't need to get paid a tremendous amount. So I'll really be getting paid on the consulting front as I consult and I lead source people through, opposed to when I actually have equity inside the company. Because on that component, I'll have like management fees and little things like that, but it's not going to be like the payouts that I had when I was building like a cash based business that like later could exit, but not exit for like big multiples. Um, so, but the 21-year-old needs to develop skills, and the skills that you develop is based on the work that you don't want to do. That's one of the things I've always learned. Like if I'm like not feeling like doing something, I need to do 20 hours of it.
Yeah.
So I can like learn, understand, and like have strong bearings around it. Now I understand it. Now I can hire it out and like delegate it a little bit better. So like there's gonna be every single learning lesson comes from being uncomfortable and pushing yourself through the difficult times of I don't know what to do here, but I need to just keep like one foot in front of the other, keep attacking and developing these set of skills. And if you do that, you'll naturally keep stacking skills onto each other, and you'll start building um, a proper business that generates a lot of cash up front right now. Later, you want to focus on how can I maximize the valuation of this company for an exit, if that's a target you want to do. Right? Like my view is to do exits opposed to build and hold. Right now, other people will just focus on build and hold. For me, it's a build and exit. I feel like that's what I had a windfall of cash on the exit, and I feel like I want to keep doing more exits now.
You've had the taste. You've had the taste. So acquire skills, put one in front of the other, and delayed gratification is kind of how I would summarize those three things.
Mhm.
If you have the chance to keep putting things back into the business and create a greater enterprise value, and you can take a hit for 3 to 4 years on the amount of cash that you're drawing versus creating so much upside that you do get that large windfall. Um, but that would be a fair. Would that be a fair summary?
Yeah, that's a fair summary.
Final question: what does legacy look like to you?
I want to be known for someone that works hard and created value for people he worked with and created an impact. Like the 1,500 clients that I served in the beauty space, I still have screenshots of people thanking me. I've had video testimonials of clients that are grateful going through and learning some of my philosophies that they passed over to their children or they passed over to their husband. And like they start having a better relationship with their husband. Or I have a client of mine that like built her dream home, bought horses, and um, had her son who's military tell her that she's proud of her, who's never said that ever in her life, and like created like her daughter to see like entrepreneurship as a thing because she became successful. And so I want to continue to create impact through the lessons and learnings that I've learned, and that will be part of the legacy. Another thing is just being known as um, someone that people can count on um, as well. Yeah.
And I'm sure that's exactly how it's going to pan out. I am incredibly proud of what you've accomplished, proud to be a friend of yours. I'm really appreciative that you've taken the time out today. There's so many of these things we could have unpacked even further.
Mhm.
Maybe we'll do it again in 6 to 12 months and see how things are
Yeah.
going with you. From scaling to 1,500 clients to now, architecting the next wave of home service roll-ups. This is exactly what this podcast is for, the fifth quarter. It's quiet moves, deep systems, and models that scale. So thank you so much for showing us how to build not just businesses, but also exits. I think it's not easy to find people that have done that. So Renato, thank you so much for your time. This has been the fifth quarter. Until next time, move with clarity and build with soul. Thank you so much.
Love it.